If episode 1 was myth and flame, skyward, thunder, and archetypal ascent, then today we'll return to the body, to the womb, to the river that remembers. We come back to water. This is Jupiter in Cancer, the great expander, arriving in the sign of mothering, memory, and emotional truth. If you joined me for Jupiter 101, you have met him as the cosmic teacher, bringer of flame, of meaning, of myth. Jupiter dreams us bigger. He shows us what we are becoming when we have forgotten the way. But what happens when the flame bringer enters the temple of the moon? When the sky god kneels to the tides, and when the law becomes love. In Cancer, Jupiter is exalted, but not because he rules, because he remembers how to care. He doesn't push here, he holds. He doesn't expand outward, but inward, not with ambition, but with tenderness. In this hour together, we will explore what that means for the soul, for the collective, for each sign of the zodiac. Let's begin. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me again in Conscious Cafe Astrology. I am your host, Genevieve, and today we are doing the last part of Jupiter's series. We talk about Jupiter as an archetype and what his meaning in the 12th house. And today we are going to look at the Jupiter transit into Cancer. He is exalted in Cancer. This means he is at his most graceful, most generous and whole. But why here? Why the sign of tides and tears, memory and mother? To understand, we look to the myth. Jupiter is Zeus in Greek mythology. He is the sky father, ruler of Olympus, thunder-voiced and law-bearing. Cancer is the great mother, the moon singer, keeper of waters and emotional codes. On paper, they don't match, but in essence, they complete something for each other. Cancer teaches Jupiter humility, compassion, and the language of the body. And in return, Jupiter offers Cancer faith, hope, the courage to feel and still trust the tides. When Jupiter moves through Cancer, by transit or in your birth chart, emotional truth becomes the gold standard. Growth isn't a pause, it is nourishment, a rooted home, a soul family, and a softened shield. This is not a placement of performance, but one of protection. We can only grow by caring, and we expand by nurturing, and we shed the old shell and let what we love outgrow us. So today, we will walk this water path, from the ancestral altars to the miracle of finally feeling safe enough to feel. And then, maybe only then, will we dive into this year's Jupiter in Cancer transit and how to work with it both cosmically and intimately. Before we dive into the water of Cancer, let's take a moment to look back. Jupiter spent the last year in Gemini, and that energy feels completely different now. If Cancer is deep, anchoring, emotional, Gemini is light, quick, and mental. It is the sign of curiosity, questions, and conversation. And Jupiter, the planet of expansion, really amplified that. It might have felt like too many ideas, too many tabs open, or too many voices, both inside and around you. A kind of mental overstimulation, not necessarily in a heavy way, but in a scattered, restless way. So Jupiter in Gemini asks us to explore, to think in all directions. But sometimes that can feel like a feast with no table. Information, yes, but not enough gathering. But it still served a purpose. That transit helped us stretch our mind. It challenged us to hold multiple truths at once, to pause before reacting, to recognize which voice in our head is actually ours. Some of the core questions that come up were, am I speaking just to speak? Or am I saying something that actually matters? Am I curious in a genuine way or just avoiding something deeper? Now Jupiter moved into Cancer. We are being invited to return to what is real, to move from ideas into feelings, from explaining ourselves to actually connecting. This shift asks us to slow down, to come home to Mother, not to abandon our thought, but to root them in emotional truth. This is the turning point, from air to water, from intellect to heart, from noise to nourishment. So let us talk about what actually happened when Jupiter moved through Cancer. This is a water sign. It rules by the moon, which means it is not about logic or productivity. It is about feeling, memory, safety, and emotional intelligence. Cancer is also a cardinal sign, so even though it is emotional, it is not passive. It initiates, it moves things forward, but from the heart. So when Jupiter lands here, he brings expansion to all the Cancerian themes, such as home, family, nourishment, protection, roots, ancestry, and emotional healing. And that can show up in very real ways, like moving homes, deepening relationships, healing family dynamics, reconnecting with where you come from. But it can also stir up the emotional stuff that's been sitting under the surface. Because Jupiter doesn't just bring blessing, he magnifies what's already there. So if there is unprocessed grief, old patterns, family entanglement, or part of you that still feel like you are too much or too sensitive, this transit can bring all of that up. But it is not to punish you. It is to help us actually feel what we need to feel, so we can grow from a more emotionally honest place. Jupiter in Cancer asks, what do I need to feel safe enough to soften? Where do I feel like I belong, not just in theory, but in my body? And what does it mean to really mother myself? It is not always a comfortable process, but it is a deeply important one. Because emotional sensitivity isn't weakness, It is a form of wisdom, but this is a time to remember that. This whole year gives us a chance to rewire the emotional foundation that everything else rests on. So instead of expanding through achievement, we are expanding through care, through depths, and through belonging. To really understand what this transit means, we need to look at it in context. Because Jupiter doesn't move through the sky alone, he is always in conversation with other planets. And the sky he is entering now is very intense. So first of all, timing-wise, Jupiter will be in Cancer from June 2025 to June 2026. The last time this happened were 2013 to 2014, and before that would be 2001 to 2002. So you may want to reflect what was going on in your life during those times. Were you healing something, moving, reconnecting with family, starting a new phase of emotional growth? That can give you some clues about what is returning or evolving now. But this isn't a repeat, remember, because this time Jupiter is entering Cancer while other big players are making waves too. For one, Pluto is in Aquarius, which is directly opposite Cancer. So right away, we have tension between personal belonging Cancer and the collective transformation Aquarius. It may bring up questions like, where do I really feel at home? Who is my actual community? And what outdated roles or identities do I need to shed to feel safe and myself again? Then we have Saturn and Neptune hanging over near the Pisces Aries cubes, creating this kind of blur edge around identity, spirituality, and boundaries. So while Jupiter is encouraging us to feel deeply, Saturn may be asking us to define something, and Neptune may be dissolving it at the same time. You could feel pulled in different directions, wanting to dream big, but also realizing your nervous system needs more grounding. Longing for connection, but unsure what's real or sustainable. And speaking of the nervous system, Uranus is finishing up his time in Taurus, shaking up everything we thought was stable, especially around money, land, home, and material safety. And so yes, Jupiter in Cancer isn't floating through a peaceful sky. He is navigating a lot of change. But that is the part of the invitation. This is a moment to tend to your emotional root, not just as a luxury, but as a necessity. Because if you are growing, to grow through what is coming next, your inner foundation needs to be strong. This is a collective work together. There are deeper themes rising right now around ancestral healing, mass migration, redefining home and family, and what emotional safety really means, both personally and politically. But there's also real support in the chart. Jupiter will be in a healing aspect to Chiron in Aries, which brings such a beautiful opportunity to tend to old wounds around identity, independence, and emotional expression. Especially if you grow up hearing you were too sensitive or too emotional, This is the year to rewrite that story, to realize that tenderness isn't a liability, it is part of your power. Now, just as Jupiter finishes his time in Cancer next year, something else major happens. Uranus is entering Gemini in August, and that is a totally different vibe in comparison with Jupiter in Gemini. Where Jupiter expands, Uranus disrupts. It brings shocks, awakenings, sudden shifts, especially around how we think, speak, and process information. So while Jupiter's been asking us to slow down, feel more, and root into what really matters emotionally, Uranus is going to speed things back up a lot. The nervous system might feel it. The mind definitely will. So this time right now, this Jupiter in Cancer's window is actually a really important moment to build emotional infrastructure, the kind of internal safety that help you stay grounded when the external world gets noisy again. In a way, it is like we are getting the chance to restore ourselves before the next wave hits, to get clear on what we care about, who we belong to, and how we want to feel. Because once Uranus hits Gemini in August, things might move fast. Ideas, conversation, social system, even the way we use technology and language, it is all up for reinvention. And we will be better prepared if we tend to our emotional roots first. Collectively, we might see bigger conversations around home, land, borders, and belonging, or a resurgence in ancestral practices, family constellations, and grief work, new forms of community, chosen family, and shared living, or maybe a redefinition of what home ever means, both spiritually and literally. In a personal level, this is the year to nurture what you want to grow, to make space for grief, not just joy, to slow down enough to hear what your heart is really asking for. So it is not passive, it is deeply fertile. And if you tend to your waters well this year, you will be able to meet the next chapter with way more clarity and strength. For the lovely Aries rising, this is the water of origin. Jupiter is moving through your fourth house, the foundation of your entire chart. This is the realm of home, family, roots, ancestry, private emotion, and your inner sanctuary. This year is a homecoming, but not necessarily to a place. It is a return to a feeling, a reconnection to safety, to emotional coherence, to the part of you that wants to exhale. And because Cancer rules this house in your chart, it touches you in a deeply personal way. You are being asked to feel your way into growth, to build not by striving but by nurturing. This is the year you learn that tending to your root is not a regression, it is a requirement. With Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune in Aries, your first house, this is big. Your identity is under pressure. With Saturn and Neptune in your sign, you are being stretched between form and formlessness. between the need to solidify who you are and the temptation to dissolve old versions of yourself altogether. Neptune can bring spiritual inspiration, but also confusion, while Saturn wants accountability. And now Jupiter, from the base of your chart, is pressing into both of them. You may feel like your foundation is in flux at the very time your outer self is trying to reassemble. This square can show up as the feeling of being emotionally full but not knowing how to express it, wanting to feel safe but not knowing who you are anymore, being called to rebuild from inside out before projecting any new version of yourself outward. Jupiter is saying you need internal coherence before external confidence. You don't need a brand, you need a home inside yourself. With Chiron also in your first house sextiling Jupiter, here is the grace point. Chiron represents your deepest wound and your greatest healing potential. In the first house, it speaks to pain around self-expression, self-acceptance, and independence. Maybe you have always had to be the strong one. Maybe you have never really felt like someone could hold space for you. Now Jupiter sent a blessings from the fourth house. You don't have to carry it all alone. You are allowed to be held, to soften, and to grieve. You are allowed to become someone new by nurturing the child within. And Uranus is preparing to enter Gemini into your third house in August 2025 this year. Uranus will electrify your mind, voice, and nervous system. This will be fast, destructive, creative energy. So Jupiter in Cancer is your preparation window. Right now, your emotions need stabilizing. You need ritual and space that feels safe, because once Jupiter hits the third house, you will be thinking and speaking at lightning speed. Give your inner child a sanctuary now so they don't get left behind in the next wave. You can ask these questions. Where does my identity feel unstable? And what inner root could help steady me? Or what version of strength have I outgrown? And am I willing to be safe in my own softness? Some spiritual advices for you. Let this year be a sanctuary. Let it be the year you learn that safety is not stagnation. It is what makes growth possible. And let your inner foundation become the place you return to, not just what things fall apart, but because it is finally worth returning to. If you are Taurus rising, the voice that fits you. For you, Jupiter is now moving through your third house, the realm of voice, mind, language, and the story you tell yourself and others. This is the part of the chart that governs your thought, your everyday connection, your siblings, and your immediate environment. But with Jupiter in Cancer, this isn't about mental stimulation. It is about emotional storytelling. The mind becomes moist with memory. The voice becomes a vessel for ancestral echoes. This year, ask what are the words that truly nourish you? What conversations are worth having? And what inner dialogue are you finally ready to rewrite? This isn't just about communication, it is communion. And your voice doesn't just want to be heard, it wants to be felt. With both Saturn and Neptune squaring Jupiter in your 12th house, this is subtle but powerful. Your 12th house is the most hidden part of the chart, the realm of dreams, unconscious memory, and the places you don't easily see or name. With Saturn and Neptune both here, you are in a long-term process of spiritual restructuring. You may be quietly dissolving old beliefs, old karmic burdens, or emotional habits that were inherited rather than chosen. And now Jupiter from the 3rd house is squaring that, which means your mind may feel foggy but emotionally overloaded. You may want to speak but not know what you are actually trying to say, or you may find your thoughts are being guided by invisible emotional undercurrents, dreams, grief, memory, even spiritual guidance. So Jupiter, he is trying to give voice to what's been unspoken for generations. The challenge for you is you can't logic your way through the 12th house initiation, but you can narrate your way with tenderness. With Jupiter sextile Chiron as well, Chiron here is deeply karmic. It brings up spiritual wounds, often tied to silence, invisibility, or being shamed for your sensitivities. Maybe you have always felt like your intuition was too much. Maybe there is a wound around being dismissed, ignored, or told to be quiet, energetically, emotionally, or even literally. And Jupiter now offers healing through language, through writing what was never spoken, through naming the unnameable, through listening to your own inner voice like it is sacred. And Uranus is preparing to enter Gemini. In later this year in August, Uranus will begin shaking up your values, income, and sense of self-worth. This will be fast-moving, electric, and possibly destabilizing. So right now, while Jupiter is still in the emotional rooted 3rd house, it is your time to build thought patterns that feel safe, to create mental routines that don't betray your body. You are preparing your nervous system for the reinvention of your material life. And you should ask these questions. What are the ancestral or spiritual stories I have inherited? And which ones am I still repeating silently? Where has my voice been shaped by fear of survival instead of softness and trust? Can I speak from emotional truth, not just polished thoughts? Some advice for you is your words are spells. Your silence has held more than its shares of weight. This is your year to rewrite the script, not to impress, but to integrate. Let your communication nourish, not perform, and let your voice become the sanctuary you never had. If you have Gemini rising, the worth you remember. For you, Jupiter is now transiting your 2nd house, the terrain of money, values, resources, and the most importantly, the self-worth. And because this is Jupiter in Cancer, the expansion doesn't come through achievement or ambition. It comes through emotional alignment. This is about rerouting your relationship to what's really sustaining you, not just in your bank account, but in your body, not just what you earn, but what you believe you deserve. This transit invites you to build emotional security alongside financial stability. It says, wealth begins with softness, with a deeper sense of inner enoughness. You don't have to earn safety. You don't have to hustle for worthiness. You are the value. With Jupiter squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries, your 11th house, this square puts pressure between your personal needs and your broader social landscape. The 11th house governs friendships, communities, networks, and long-term dreams. And with both Saturn and Neptune here, you are in a profound period of discerning what connections truly reflect who you are. Saturn is asking which friendships are actually supportive, and Neptune is softening and dissolving all ideas, hopes, and affiliations. And Chiron, here, more on him in a moment, is reopening old wounds around acceptance and belonging. Meanwhile, Jupiter in your second house is asking, what is it costing you energetically, emotionally, and even financially to stay connected to people or vision that no longer nourish you? You may feel a tug of war between trying to grow up your foundation while still being emotionally entangled in group dynamics, social obligations, or collective goals that have shifted. And Jupiter sextile Chiron, also in your 11th house. This aspect brings gentle healing to your relationship with community. Chiron often indicate early wounds around being too different, too weird, too emotional, or never quite fitting in. You may have a history of masking your need to stay connected or performing a version of yourself that was more palatable to others. And now Jupiter offers reliefs. This is your chance to rebuild your sense of community around shared values, not shared masks, around emotional reciprocity, not just shared interest. You get to decide, who do I want to build a future with? And do I really feel seen here? And Uranus, he is preparing to enter Gemini, your first house. Soon, Uranus will enter your sign, beginning a 7-year transformation of your identity, body, image, and nervous system. That is massive. So this Jupiter transit, grounded in the second house, is your preparation work. It is the emotional foundation you will need before that quantum reinvention begins. This year is about learning how to value yourself without needing the world to mirror it back immediately. And there are questions you can ask. What do I emotionally associate with security? And does that still serve me? Where have I compromised my values to stay connected or relevant? Can I allow myself to build wealth of all kinds from softness, not from striving? And the advice I can give is, you don't need to prove your worth to claim your space. And this is your year to embody what has been true. You are worthy, you are enough, and you are allowed to receive. Let that belief be the foundation of everything you build next. If you are Cancer rising, that is the rebirth of self. This is your return. Jupiter is in your first house, the part of the chart that governs identity, presence, embodiment, and how you move through the world. This is the year you remember who you are, but not the version of you shaped by family expectations, caregiving roles, or emotional survival. This is about the you underneath all that, the soul that wants to step forward, softly but fully. Jupiter in Cancer blesses your body, your aura, and your presence. You may feel more magnetic, more visible, more emotionally radiant. But because this is you we are talking about, it won't be about flesh. It will be about truth, about becoming someone who is allowed to be seen as they are. With Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune in Aries, your 10th house, here we have the tension. Your 10th house is your public image, career, vocation, and long-term legacy. So it is going through a massive reshaping. Saturn is asking you to take more responsibility for your path. Neptune is blurring it, dissolving your old goals, titles, or aspirations. And of course, Chiron is here as well and is adding emotional vulnerability to the mix. You may feel this square as the pull to step into a new version of yourself, but the pressure to perform or produce at the same time. An identity crisis around what you are known for versus who you really are, or a struggle to reconcile softness with ambition. Jupiter here in the first house is saying, you don't have to build your life by abandoning your emotional truth. The world doesn't need your mask, it needs your heart. And he is also sextile Chiron in Aries in your 10th house, with your healing invitation. Chiron here often points to wounds around public visibility. Maybe you have fear being misunderstood, overexposed, or not enough in professional spaces. Or perhaps you have carried the silent burden of emotional labor behind the scenes while appearing composed to the world. Now Jupiter brings emotional affirmation. He is saying, let your presence be your offering. Let the world meet you in your wholeness, not your performance. This is the year to rewrite your relationship to success and to stop striving to be good enough and start embodying the truth that you already are. Let's look at Uranus preparing to enter Gemini in your 12th house. This will begin a deep behind-the-scenes spiritual awakening. That's the beginning of an entirely new karmic chapter. Before that, this Jupiter transit is giving you a rare window of self-affirmation, a time to build emotional self-trust before the inner world gets stirred by revelation, dreams, and downloads. Claim your body, claim your being, and anchor into you. Some questions you can ask. Who am I becoming? And is the outer world aligned with that? What role or title have I outgrown, even if it still works on paper? Can I let emotional truth be part of my leadership? And some advice for you too. You don't need to harden to be respected. You don't need to shrink to be loved, and you don't need to explain to be understood. This is your year to embody the fullness of who you are. Let the world rise to meet that. If you are a Leo rising, this is the sacred retreat for you. Jupiter is moving through your 12th house, the most liminal and hidden part of the chart. This is the house of rest, dreams, the unconscious, spiritual healing, past lives, grief, and release. This year isn't about visibility. It is about surrender. It is not a failure to step back, but a sacred retreat. Jupiter, he is expanding your connection to the unseen, to the soul behind the story, the wisdom behind the wound, and the calm behind the storm. You may feel more tired, more internal, less interest in striving, and more drawn to silence, sleep, or solitude. It is not a sign of collapse, but is a sign of preparation. You are gestating something. This is the final chapter before your next 12-year growth cycle begins in 2026 when Jupiter enters your sign. For the meantime, you are not performing, you are remembering. And Jupiter squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries in your ninth house. This square speaks to a deep tension between spiritual integration, the 12th house, and the spiritual philosophy, the ninth house. The ninth house is where you hold your world will, your guiding beliefs, your longings for travel, higher learning, and freedom. With Saturn here, there may be pressure to commit to a path. With Neptune, there may be confusion about what that path even is. And Chiron is making this journey deeply personal. So Jupiter is squaring all of this from the 12th house and asking, can you let go of belief system that no longer comforts your soul? Can you release old spiritual ideas that make you feel unworthy or broken? Are you still seeking truth externally when what you really need is rest? So this is not about abandoning your path, but softening it into something new. Let the unknowing be part of your spiritual maturity. And Jupiter sextile Chiron in Aries in your ninth house, this aspect offers a beautiful bridge between inner healing and spiritual evolution. Chiron in the ninth often reveals wounds around teachers, gurus, philosophies, or even cultures that make you feel out of place. Maybe you have felt like your truth wasn't valid unless it fit into someone else's system. With Jupiter in the 12th house, he is saying, your direct connection to the divine is enough. You don't need a label to belong, and you don't need a spiritual identity to be sacred. Healing may come through dream work, retreat, rest, intuitive study, or returning to a private practices you once abandoned. This is a quiet but profound integration. And Uranus is preparing to enter Gemini in your 11th house. So, he will soon move into your house of community, collective dreams, and long-range vision. That's going to bring radical shift in how you relate to the future and the people around you. So before that happens, Jupiter in the 12th offers you something rare, a rest, a reset, a spiritual clearing. The chance to lay down the weight of what no longer needs to be carried in the next cycle. And you could ask, what unfinished grief is ready to be released? Where has my quest for meaning left me spiritually exhausted? Can I allow solitude to be sacred, not shameful? And the advice for you is this is your chrysalis year. You are not disappearing, you are preparing. Let rest be your ritual. Let mystery be your medicine, and let silence be a blessing. You are not behind. You are beneath the surface, gathering what matters for what next. If you have Virgo rising, the dream you can't do alone. This year, Jupiter moved through your 11th house, the realm of community, friendship, collaboration, and future dreams. And with Jupiter in Cancer, those dreams aren't built through strategy alone. They are rooted in emotion, belonging, and soul alignment. This is your invitation to expand your network, but more importantly, to find your people, the ones who nourish you, who mirror your heart, who share your values, not just your goals. This is not about finding a crowd, it is about finding a circle. People you can build something sacred with, not for performance, but from presence. This transit also supports long-range visions, especially those connected to the emotional healing, nurturing work, group-based projects, or causes that matter to the soul. But the work this year isn't just outward, because the deeper growth is happening behind the scenes. With Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune in Aries, that is your 8th house, the tension here is real, because the 8th house governs intimacy, shared resources, psychological healing, sexuality, loss, and transformation. And with Saturn and Neptune both here, you are in the midst of a profound emotional restructuring. Saturn may be asking for boundaries and accountability, especially around emotional or financial entanglements. Neptune, on the other hand, can make everything feel blurred, complex, even overwhelming. And now Jupiter from the 11th is pressing into that space. You might feel pulled between building your future while still breathing your past, expanding socially while navigating emotional shadows or secret fears, and wanting support but afraid to be fully vulnerable. This square is asking, what still needs to be processed before you can fully show up for the vision you are holding? So your future doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be whole. And that with Jupiter sextile Chiron in Aries as well in your 8th, and the healing begin. Chiron in the 8th points to wounds around trust, betrayal, emotional dependency, and deep vulnerability. You may have learned that it's unsafe to stay private, or that sharing too much leads to pain or loss of control. But Jupiter is offering a new possibility, that shared healing is possible, and you don't have to carry it all alone. That letting someone witness your tenderness could be what actually set you free. This might show up as transformative friendships, group therapy, soul family, or projects that help others move through the same terrain you are navigating. And what about Uranus? He is preparing to enter Gemini into your 10th house. So it begins radically reshaping your career, public identity, and life direction. That is going to be fast, future forward energy. This year, while Jupiter blesses your 11th house, it's about building the support system that will carry you into that change. The people, the vision, the emotional infrastructure. You are not meant to lead alone. And you can ask these questions. Where do I still feel emotionally entangled in the past? And how might that be holding back my future? What kind of support do I actually need? And am I willing to receive it? What would you feel like to be part of a community that reflects my deepest value, not just my skills. And the advice to you, this is your year to build emotional alliance, not just professional ones, to create a future that's not just functional, but so aligned, to let connection be healing, and to let your dreams be shared. You don't have to do this alone anymore. To the lovely Libra rising, that is the visibility of vulnerability. For you, Jupiter is now transiting your 10th house, the highest and most visible point in your chart. This is where you step into public roles, career direction, purpose, and legacy. But with Jupiter in Cancer, this isn't about chasing success for its own sake. It is not about the titles, the accolades, or being impressive. This is about being real. It is about letting your emotional wisdom guide the way you lead, teach, serve, and show up in the world. Not as a polished professional, but as a whole, feeling human. People don't just want your resume, they want your presence. And this year, you are being called to offer it with heart. With Jupiter squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries in your 7th house, this is where things get tender. The 7th house rules your relationships, romantic, business, platonic. It is where you meet the mirror of another. And with Saturn and Neptune both here, your partnerships are going through a profound restructuring. Saturn may be bringing reality check or karmic lessons, asking you to define your relationships patterns with more clarity and accountability, while Neptune may be dissolving old illusions or exposing emotional disconnection. So now Jupiter from your 10th house is squaring this dynamic, which means your public life may be affected by private relationship dynamics. You may feel pulled between your calling and your connections. You could be navigating visibility while healing emotional wounds in intimacy. This isn't about choosing one over the other. It is about asking, can I lead with honesty? And can I be visible without abandoning my emotional boundaries? And Jupiter sextile Chiron, the same in Aries, in your 7th house, and lets the healing begins. Chiron in the 7th can point to old wounds around love, abandonment, dependency, or being too much for those to ask. You might have been shaped by partnership where your needs were minimized and your emotional truth was quietly dismissed. Now Jupiter brings an invitation. Let your healing come through mutual vulnerability. Let your work in the world reflect your growth in your closest bonds. And let your partnership evolve alongside your purpose. This is a powerful time for healing through collaboration if you are willing to be emotionally real. And Uranus is preparing to enter Gemini, your 9th house. Uranus will soon enter this part of your chart that rules your beliefs, philosophies, global outlook, and spiritual framework. It is going to shake things up. So this year, while Jupiter is helping you align your public life with emotional truth, is your opportunity to root deeply into a more embodied, heart-centered sense of direction. Because once your belief systems start to shift, you will want to know that your career and public offering are coming from something real, not reactives. The questions you can ask: do I feel safe being emotionally visible in my public work? Am I sacrificing intimacy for ambitions or ambition for intimacy? What kind of leadership feels emotionally sustainable? And advice for you: let your career reflect your care. Let your public role include your private truth. You don't have to choose between success and softness. The world is ready for both. So show up with your whole heart. That's what legacy is made of. If you have Scorpio rising, that is the pilgrimage home. For you, Jupiter is now traveling through your ninth house, the realm of philosophy, travel, spiritually, truth-seeking, and long view of life. But with Jupiter in Cancer, this isn't the typical Sagittarian style ninth house journey. It is not about adventure or escape. It is about emotional meaning. It and the beliefs that nourish you, the path that brings your soul home, not just your intellect. And your expansion comes through deeper faith, not blind faith though, but faith rooted in lived experience, emotional intelligence, and ancestry memory. You might feel called to revisit a spiritual path, deepen your devotion, return to a lineage practice, or even study something sacred that speaks to your emotional body, not just your mind. You are not just chasing truth, you are letting truth come to you. With Jupiter squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries, the sixth house governs your daily routine, physical health, work life, and service. And Saturn here, you are being asked to create more discipline or structure in how you care for your body and your time. Neptune is dissolving old routines, beliefs around productivity, and possibly bringing up confusion around what enough look like. This square could feel like a longing to grow spiritually or study something meaningful, but struggling with burnout or fatigue. The sense that your daily life isn't aligned with your beliefs. A pull between devotion and depletion. So Jupiter is asking, how can you live in a way that supports your truth? Not just talk about your path, but embody it. You are learning that sacred service begins with substantial rhythms, and that your ritual needs to feed you, not drain you. And with Chiron sextile Jupiter in your sixth house too, this aspect brings healing to your relationship with your physical body and daily effort. Chiron here speaks to wounds around being useful, helpful, or productive. You may have grown up feeling like your worth was tied to what you could do for others, never resting, never softening. But now Jupiter offers emotional healing through spiritual routine, through practices that are deeply nourishing, not just efficient. And remembering that your body is your altar, through giving yourself permission to release perfectionism in favor of presence. And of course, Uranus is preparing to enter Gemini into your eighth house. Uranus is about to enter one of the most transformative houses in your chart, governing intimacy, shared resources, psychological depths, and energetic entanglements. This shift will bring sudden changes in how you trust, merge, grieve, and evolve. But this year, with Jupiter in the ninth, you are anchoring the philosophy that will carry you through that change. Let this be the year you define what truth means to you, not just mentally, but soulfully. And when transformation comes, it has something real to root into. You can ask these questions for reflection. Are my beliefs supporting my body and lifestyle, or creating more pressure? What am I devoted to? And is it filling or depleting me? Can I allow spirituality be the soft, rhythmic, and emotionally restorative? The advice: you don't need a guru. You don't need to be perfect to be on the path. Let your days become your pilgrimage. Let devotion find you in the quiet. This is your year to live with what you believe, gently, honestly, and fully. For Sagittarius risings, the grace of letting go. For you, Jupiter, your ruling planet, is journaling through your 8th house this year, the house of emotional entanglement, soul contracts, shared resources, grief, intimacy, sexuality, inheritance, and rebirth. Jupiter in Cancer, he is not a loud kind of expansion. It is deep, watery, transformational. It brings growth by asking you to surrender what's no longer yours to carry, and to discover how much life opens up when you do. This year is not just about what you gain, it is about what you release, and through that release, how you become more whole. Whether through therapy, loss, emotional breakthrough, or a healing partnership, this is your season to soften into transformation and to know that grief and growth are not opposite. They walk hand in hand. With Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune in Aries, your 5th house, this rule the joy, creativity, romance, children, and the courage to express who you are without apology. But with Saturn and Neptune here, you may be facing a quiet crisis around joy itself. Saturn asks you to take creative responsibility. With Neptune can make your pressure, confidence, or romantic longing feel foggy, distorted, or even painful. And Chiron is amplifying that sensitivity as well. Meanwhile, Jupiter in the 8th is asking you to go deeper, not louder. This square may feel like a longing to feel joy again, but feeling held back by emotional exhaustion or grief. Confusion around romantic or creative desire. What do you want and why? A pull between creating something beautiful and confronting the raw truth beneath it. Jupiter's message here is to let joy return, not through performance, but through emotional honesty. Real joy is born from authenticity, not perfection. And with Jupiter sextile Chiron in your Aries 5th house as well, and that speaks to wounds around being seen, being celebrated, or being too much in childhood. Perhaps you learn to censor your joy, minimize your expression, or associate love with conditions. And now Jupiter in the 8th is offering healing through emotional intimacy, through sharing your heart in deeper way, maybe through art, vulnerability, or soul connection. Let your inner child be held and your adult self expressed with tenderness. Healing may come through creative process, even through grieving the part of yourself that didn't get to play. And Uranus is preparing to enter Gemini in your 7th house. And soon Uranus will shake up your relationships, bringing shift, unexpected changes to how you connect, commit, and collaborate. But before that, this Jupiter transit is helping you prepare emotionally to clear all emotional bonds, to complete chapters, to release energetic ties that no longer belong in your next season. This is a deeply karmic and beautifully fertile time if you are willing to let go. And you can ask these questions. What emotional weight am I still carrying that's no longer mine? What's trying to end with grace? And what am I still clinging to out of fear? Where have I learned to hide my joy or censor my heart? And can I begin to reclaim it? And the advice for you, as you are not breaking down, you are breaking through. This is a year of sacred shedding, of emotional clarity, of letting your joy be reborn through grief. You don't have to hold on to be whole. You can let go and become even more of yourself. If you are Capricorn rising, that is the mirror of connection for you. Jupiter is now moving through your 7th house, the place where you meet the other, romantic, partners, business collaborators, close friendships, and soul mirrors. This is a house of reflection. And with Jupiter in Cancer here, the reflection is emotional. This year isn't about accumulating partnerships. It is about deepening them. It is about building trust, safety, and care in your one-to-one relationships, not out of obligation, but from true emotional resonance. You may attract people who reflect something soft and unspoken inside of you, or you may find your current relationship shifting toward more nourishing ground or more truthful endings. This isn't always easy, but it is very rich. Jupiter, here he is saying, let connection be a healing practice. Let it show you who you really are. And with Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune in Aries in your 4th house, this is the emotional core of the chart. The 4th house governs home, family, safety, and your deepest inner foundation. Saturn is asking you to take more responsibility for your emotional stability. Neptune is dissolving illusions about the past or your idealized version of it. And Chiron here is opening old wounds you thought were buried. And now Jupiter is pressing into this from the 7th house, and the message is very loud. You can't build intimate relationships on an unstable inner foundation. The way you attach to others is shaped by what you learned or lack at home. What you seek in others may be what you still need to give yourself. This square may feel like tension between personal and relational needs, between caregiving and autonomy, between the inner child and the adult self trying to lead a life. And Saturn sextile Chiron as well in Aries. This is tender and also need. Chiron in your 4th house speaks to early emotional wounds, often from childhood, family dynamics, or growing up in an environment where emotional expression was unsafe or undervalued. And now Jupiter offers a self. You get to heal the way you relate by healing where you come from, not by fixing the past, but by reparenting the present, by letting relationships today become a new kind of home. This aspect supports emotional honesty in partnership, share healing, the courage to let someone in without abandoning yourself. With Uranus preparing to enter Gemini in your sixth house, soon Uranus will disrupt and revolutionize your work, health, habit, and daily structure that will require resilience and flexibility. But this year, Jupiter in the seventh is helping you establish strong emotional alliance. So you are not navigating the upcoming changes alone. Let your relationships become stabilizing, not draining. Let them reflect the truth you are building inside. And you can ask these questions. How have my early experiences shaped the way I love and relate today? Do my current relationships reflect my growth or my old conditioning? Am I allowing myself to be emotionally seen by others or just functionally partnered? The advice for you is to let love be the mirror, not the mask. Let connection be a place of nourishment, not negotiation. You are allowed to be held, to be heard, and to be healed through relationship. This is the year to love and be loved from a deeper, safer place. If you have Aquarius rising, that is the ritual of restoration. For you, Jupiter is now transiting your sixth house, the realm of daily life, health, routine, service, and sacred maintenance. But this isn't just about being more productive. Jupiter in Cancer brings nourishment into your rituals. It invites you to create a life's rhythm that feeds you emotionally, physically, and spiritually. This is the year to turn your schedule into sanctuary, to soften your work habits, listen to your body, and treat your nervous system like a temple. The sixth house is where we learn how we treat ourselves through repetition. And now, Jupiter is your life set up for care for your heart. With Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune in Aries, your third house, which governs communication, mindset, language, and your inner dialogue. With Saturn, you may feel a pressure to get clear, to be disciplined with your thinking, while Neptune can cloud this, bringing mental fog, distraction, or emotional overwhelm. And Chiron brings the wound, perhaps feeling misunderstood, silenced, or mentally scattered. And now Jupiter, from your sixth house, is asking, what are your mental habits doing to your body? Is your thought process helping you or quietly harming you? This square may look like overthinking that drains your vitality, self-talk that pushes productivity over rest, or mental burnout that makes physical healing feel impossible. Jupiter is saying, you can't heal from pressure, you heal from presence. It is time to change not just what you do each day, but how you think about yourself in the doing. and Jupiter is sextiling Chiron in Aries. This is a gentle, powerful invitation to rewire your mind through emotional care. Chiron here often bring up early experiences where your voice was silenced or where you learned to speak up in ways that minimize your own feeling. And Jupiter in Cancer is saying, let your thought become kinder. Your word nourish, not push. And your communication, especially with yourself, become a form of self-care. This is a beautiful time to develop healing rituals around journaling, vocal expression, affirmations, or even repatterning your internal dialogue. And Uranus preparing to enter Gemini in your fifth house. And soon, when Uranus enter your fifth house in August, where it will revolutionize your creativity, romantic life, joy, and relationship with your inner child. That's going to be exciting and liberating, but also potentially destructive. So this year, while Jupiter supports your nervous system and your daily rhythm, is the perfect time to build inner steadiness. The more grounded your body is, the more freedom your creativity can have when the next chapter begins. You might ask these questions. Is my schedule honoring my emotional needs or ignoring them? How does my inner dialogue affect my physical energy? What would it look like to treat my daily life as sacred? And the advice for you is your year to rebuild your foundation gently. Let your routines be an act of reverence and your habit to heal, not harm. You don't need to earn rest. You just need to receive it. For the lovely Pisces rising, this is the return of joy. For you, Jupiter is now moving through your fifth house, the part of your chart that governs creativity, play, romance, children, passion, and pleasure. With Jupiter in Cancer, this isn't carefree or performative joy. This is tender joy, soul-fed joy, the kind that asks you to soften, open your heart, and remember the part of yourself that knew how to delight in life before the world asked you to grow up too fast. This is the year to reconnect with the art of feeling, not for a purpose, not for validation, but for the sheer beauty of expression. Jupiter in Cancer is saying, you are allowed to enjoy your life even now, especially now. While Jupiter squares Saturn and Neptune in Aries in your second house, and that is where the tensions stay. The second house governs self-worth, money, value, and your sense of stability. Saturn may be asking you to redefine what's essential, and Neptune may be dissolving financial certainty or questioning what you truly value. And don't forget Chiron in the same house at emotional depth, wounds around worthiness, especially around receiving. So Jupiter in the fifth now challenges all of that. It is asking, can you let yourself experience joy even if you don't feel fully secure yet? Can you trust that pressure? Art and love are needed, not luxuries. Can you soften into creative flow even while you are rebuilding your foundation? This square may feel like guilt around investing time or energy into play, or a fear of expressing your heart when your material life feels uncertain, or a push-pull between joy and practicality. Jupiter reminds you that your worth is not earned through labor, it is expressed through your aliveness. And with Jupiter sextile Chiron in Aries, your second house as well, this is the healing balm. Chiron here reveals wounds around deserving, perhaps shaped by scarcity, rejection, or early experiences of having to prove your value. You may carry a quiet belief that creativity isn't useful enough, or that you have to justify your joy. But now Jupiter offers a chance to rewire this pattern through expression, through creating something that feels good, or letting love and play become your medicine, or through trusting that your heart is not a weakness, it is your gold. What about Uranus preparing to enter Gemini in your fourth house? And when Uranus enters the base of your chart, bringing shift and unexpected changes to your home life, family structure, and emotional foundation. But not yet. This Jupiter transit is giving you time to reconnect with what brings you joy, so you can meet those coming changes from a place of fullness, not depletion. So let this be the year you create something just for the sake of love. Let joy return to the center of your emotional home. You may ask these questions. Where did I learn that joy has to be earned? And what creative desires have I buried under being realistic? Can I allow myself to feel beautiful even when things are uncertain? And some advice for you. Let joy be your teacher, and beauty be your prayer, and let play be the portal back to your truth. This is your year to remember that the heart was never meant to be silent. Let it sing,